Hello, welcome to this, my first video on my new channel. I haven't yet come up with a formula on how I'm wanting these videos to be produced, so as time goes by I can see the format changing significantly as time goes by. So please be patient, and if you have any suggestions on how I should be presenting my content, please feel free to comment at the end of the video, and I'd like to hear any constructive criticisms. Now, onto today's topic. Trump links Tylenol as a contributing factor of the autism epidemic. So early this week, the United States President Donald Trump made an announcement that there have been links found to Tylenol usage during pregnancy and that it can cause autism. Now, where's this claim come from? There's been a study. It was taken out by the Harvard University. In that study, it claims that when children are exposed to acetaminophen, also known by the brand name Tylenol in the US or paracetamol in other countries around the world, during pregnancy, they may be more likely to develop neurodevelopmental disorders. Let's try and say that when you're drunk. Which, from now on, I'm going to try and refer them to NDDs if I can remember. This also includes contributing factors to ADHD. Well, this is what this study is about, apparently. I mean, I've gone through it, kind of. But it was published on the 14th of August of this year in BMC Environmental Health. Andrea Baccelli, however you pronounce his name, I don't really care, Dean of the Faculty at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and Professor of Environmental Health, was the senior author of this. It was led by the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, but also included co-authors from other institutions. Now, a total of 46 other studies worldwide, mainly conducted in Europe and the US, were analysed to create this new study that investigated potential links between prenatal acetaminophen use and the subsequent NDDs in children. Researchers used the Navigation Guide Systematic Review methodology. God, what a bloody mouthful that was. Which is a gold standard framework for synthesizing and evaluating environmental health data. This has enabled them to conduct a rigorous, comprehensive analysis that supported evidence of an association between acetaminophen exposure during pregnancy and increased incidence of NDDs. Researchers noted that while steps should be taken to limit acetaminophen use, the drug, importantly, is there for treating pain and fever during pregnancy. There's nothing else better. And having a fever whilst being pregnant and not doing anything about it can cause harm in the development of fetus. I think it's something called neural tube defects and also preterm birth. They also went on to say that they recommend judicious acetaminophen use, the lowest effective dose, shows the shortest duration under medical guidance. Now, this should be tailored to individual risk assessments rather than a broad limitation. In late September this year, the American Food and Drug Administration announced that it would issue a letter to clinicians urging them to be cautious about the use of acetaminophen in pregnancy. Excuse me. Baccarelli, whoever it is, I don't even know how to spell his name, but he said he's discussed study with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy. I'm getting even worse with this. In the weeks leading up to the announcement, and provided the White House team with a statement noting his research found evidence of an association between prenatal exposure to acetaminophen and the neurodevelopment disorders. That association is strongest when acetaminophen is taken for 4 weeks or longer. The statement continued, further research is needed to confirm the association and to determine causality, but based on existing evidence. So, even though he's brought this new study out, which basically outlines other studies that's been done, he's still saying more research is required. Okay, but Baccelli also noted in competing interests section of the research paper that he has served as an expert witness for plaintiffs in a case involving potential links between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and neurodevelopmental disorders. Now, I'm going to be going into this particular point in a lot more detail very shortly. Now, I've gone through the publication of the study to a relatively decent degree myself. I didn't compare all the results myself, so it had taken weeks and weeks for me to even do this video, and it didn't really warrant that much time to actually do it for a 20-minute video, 25-minute video, whatever it's going to be. So there we go. But from what I can make out, not even all these studies that was used to create this new study are giving the same results. They said there's 46 studies they've used for inclusion in this analysis. 27 of these reports no significant links to NDDs. 9 of them showed no significant link at all, and four other studies indicated that there is actually benefits to using paracetamol whilst pregnant. Now, what happened to the 6 studies? The mathing, there's only 40 studies that's labelled out here. What's happened to the other 6? Mathing. So, but they also state higher quality studies were more likely to show a positive associations. Well, when they say positive, they mean negative associations with they actually cause it. So, are they creating extra results out of thin air to support so-called facts in this study? Maybe, maybe not. But anyway, I'll keep on going. Overall, they claimed that the majority of these studies reported positive associations of prenatal acetaminophen use within ADHD, ASD, or NDDs in offspring with a risk of bias. Now, this risk of bias, I actually caught up on what did that part mean, really, risk of bias. Is he stating that he's already biased of the results, but is biased on the evidence he's made, or is it personal bias? Is there some external factor that he's writing this because of? Again, I will be hitting briefly on this. They then conclude that their analysis uses the navigation guide, thus supports evidence consistent with an association between acetaminophen exposure during pregnancy and the increased incidence of the NDDs. They then claim appropriate and immediate steps should be taken to advise pregnant women to limit the acetaminophen consumption, protect their offspring's neurodevelopment. Now, here's the twist. The majority of other outlets worldwide, in the scientific community, in right-wing, left-wing journalism, are saying there is little factual basis of this. That this study is correct, and the actual increased risk, if it is true, and the actual risk of it is really negligible. From the research I did, it's only around 0.09% increase of risk. That's not even 0.1% of risk, lower than that. So, and maybe, any reduce is a reduce, but the amount that they're actually going at it over this is absolutely ridiculous, in my eyes anyway. Monique Bother, who's a social development psychologist. Oh God, I chose the wrong one. Anyway, she's a developmental psychologist at Durham University in the UK. Reported a spokesman for the Tylenols manufacturer Kenvue, that company is based in Summit, New Jersey, in the United States. These guys said, "We believe independent sound science clearly shows that taking acetaminophen does not cause autism. Researchers say that the vast majority of the increase in autism prevalence over the past couple of decades can be explained by an increase in diagnoses, rather than a real growth in underlying symptoms. This diagnostic criteria have changed over the years so that they apply to more and more people, including adults as well as children on the spectrum, a diagnosis have grown as a clinical profession. My days. Anyway, these diagnoses have grown as clinical professionals have changed how they interpret and apply the criteria. But that's obvious what a company manufacturing a drug would say, right? So I'm trying to be quite neutral here. So I'm going to pick holes in every statement if I can. What's more, specialists say more people are seeking and receiving diagnoses as awareness of autism has grown. Some parents pursue a diagnosis because it can help the kids get access to better education, better health support, and even more adults apparently are receiving a diagnosis too. So, yes, that will increase the population that is deemed to be autistic. Now, there's a couple of figures I'm going to fire at you in a little bit. Um, and although, yes, it's a contributing factor, what I've just said, I don't think it's literally hitting everything on the actual figures. But so another right, I'm going to come back to when the head of Harvard faculty has insisted this is true, and this could be the contributing factor on why he's produced this study and why he's forcing it down everyone's throat. So, why is this study insisting that Tylenol presents significant higher risks? It could be because the lead author, Dr. Andrea Barcarelli, I still don't know if I'm getting his name right, the Dean of Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, was paid at least $150,000 to serve as an expert witness on behalf of plaintiffs in a lawsuit against the maker of Tylenol. Now, these cases were thrown out of court by a federal judge dismissing the suits for the lack of reliable scientific evidence. Maybe because of this, he's feeling the need to validate what he said in court. It could be a high possibility. But could it be not a so elaborate way to hit back at Kenvue, which has been the maker of Tylenol since it was spun off from Johnson & Johnson in 2023, along with other major retailers that sell generic versions of acetaminophen, because it was humiliated in court? Or is this a genuine concern for the population? I'm not going to tell you what you should be thinking. It's up to you to make a decision for yourself. Now, what I can gather after watching both sides of the journalism report on this, for the most part, they're agreeing on this. It's full of crap. It's full of crap. It's full of holes. There's no way that this is legitimate. Now, for both sides of journalism to be literally saying the same thing speaks volumes in itself. This is a very rare occasion, and I feel like when this happens, there's truth in what both sides are saying. So it's more truthful than when, say, the right says one thing, the left says another. But in the reporting, there was some variations. Like the right kept on saying, "No, we didn't see this coming." Like Wall Street Journal, he's going to go after Tylenol makers. But the left side took a much harder stance on the story, saying it to be beyond blatant misinformation and willful ignorance, then going on a complete tangent that the president has put back the autistic community 30 years. It's like, what? Where are you getting this from? I mean, I literally went back and watched the entire press conference again, just in case I missed something. And all I could really see was references by one of the speaking parties mentioned, "Oh, it's hard to see, it's hard to watch a child with autism sometimes." And then two mothers saying, "Oh, I've had a hard time." That's literally all I really saw. But then again, there were countless stories I couldn't read because literally it's time constraint. I'm like 9 hours into research on this thing, and still, I know I've got holes and loopholes. I've missed bits. I know that for a fact. But anyway, trust the left to spit out their dummies when talking. Trust the left to spit out their dummies while taking the bat and ball home and use it to paint someone's lying, an idiot, being literally a fascist, or do as I say sort of thing. That's where they were going with it. The argument was winning in their favour in the first place. Why did they feel the need to go so overboard? Not really needed, in my opinion. Then again, the mainstream media is never completely neutral, and there's always going to be variations. But I do agree that the president's statement could be quite dangerous, and that this could really affect the companies producing the drug on the stock markets. And if the companies aren't worth as much, it could start affecting jobs. And if the public listen to all this, which I don't think they are, so I very much doubt any of this is going to happen. But imagine this being taken to heart, but especially by the left. Within hours, there'd be protesters outside of these drug producers, maybe outside of chemists, supermarkets, and other retailers of this drug. More than likely, these protests would involve some sort of damage or violent breakouts. Before anybody tries to come at me, in the comments, it's already been proven when the left protests, violence and mayhem ensue. Literally, they actually destroyed a city on a protest not so long ago. So, right, anyway, but with Trump saying, don't use Tylenol when pregnant at all, or give it to your children, is incredibly inflammatory, especially when it's so loosely based on a study that's so loosely based on other things that still haven't come up with a true report of what's going on. But then he did also follow that straight up. In extreme cases, this drug is needed, but through consultation of a doctor. Yeah, again, no alternative. All the others, medications that do the same thing as paracetamol, have been found to cause real problems. So it should be, again, he's saying it's lowest effective dose, shortest period of time. This approach, yeah, it's acceptable because the medication can still be obtained. So it's then up to the individual themselves if they want to take the drug. There is a slight increase, like I said, but it's still the best available drug. Literally, the only available. It's not the best available, it is the only available drug. At least Trump seems to be trying to find answers, though, to a problem that's been increasing for 30 years or so, where nobody else seems to really be that bothered. They've done studies and literally it's gone nowhere. This study's been done to complement other studies and is now a basis for another study to be done. Is this money grabbing? Or is it actual true concern? And this brings me to the vaccine side of things as well. It's because the MMR jab, there's been a lot of concern over that, especially when it's been in all three. But individually, there's no side effects. Because they've been using them for 30, 40 years previous to this. So there's no problems, apparently. So blanket statement saying all jobs to be given in stages on the surface could be a mark of common sense, but it also could be a mark of having to actually making more money. Because if you put, especially in a lot of the jobs that you've got lots of different vaccines in, if they're coming in separate jabs each time, each individual jab's going to cost more money. It's going to cost the public more money. It's going to cost taxpayers more money in other countries. So this could be a big money-making scheme for a certain number of medical parties. Maybe, maybe not. But I might have to do a video on this subject just to see what the stats are, where they're thinking that the jabs all in one are causing trouble. If there is a subject, if there is a study on it, but maybe not. But I think it's going to be pretty damn similar to what the acetaminophen one is. But these claims the president's making, the research at this moment in time, are not, literally not supporting it. I couldn't remember the word. But jumping the gun like this is making the president look like an uninformed idiot, in my opinion. So lefty. Joking. Calm down. Now, this Cuba statement he made, that there is no autism in Cuba. Well, shock horror, there is. But in Cuba, it is significantly lower levels recorded than anywhere else. I think anywhere else in the world, I believe. I'm not 100%. But the population of the people, there's 3,500 cases of autism recorded in Cuba, which this equates to 0.4 person per 10,000 of the populace. Now, more than likely, these figures are way off because a lot of things are not properly documented in the country. The use of Tylenol and vaccines in Cuba is also significantly reduced, as there is a medicine shortage for many over-the-counter drugs and healthcare tools, such as like bandages, feminine pads, plasters, daft stuff like that. They just can't get hold of it. There's just no money for it, and they can't get it into the country. I also really can't see the fact that the US adhere to such better diagnosis, bumping the figures up to such an extent than what is being recorded in America. Or, sorry, this is what I was trying to say earlier, with the better diagnosis increasing the autism populace. Yeah, it's going to do it at some point, but think about what I've just said. It's literally in Cuba, it's 0.4 person per 10,000 people in the country that have autism. In America, it's 1 person per 32. And in males, it's 1 person per 12. This is literally ridiculous. There's no way better diagnosis and better implementation of diagnosis is actually hitting the drastic numbers. They're trying to say it is 8,000 times better recording of documentation than it is in Cuba. No way. I know it's a lot better. I'm going to think it's going to be somewhere in between, which will bring Cuba up in line with other poorer countries. But yeah, anyway, all that aside, I wouldn't take this new study completely with a pinch of salt at all. It's literally regurgitating the old studies, which have also been found not to bump the risk up too significantly. So I wouldn't listen to it too much. And this gets me on another bit off on a tangent on this one. And I certainly won't be doing what some female members of a certain demographic are doing. I've heard from multiple sources that these pregnant women are taking copious amounts of Tylenol and overdosing on it. Whether or not you trust the study or even like the person stating these facts is beside the point. As a normal person, especially in this information age, you can go through the findings yourself and be able to make an informed decision based on what's being put down. And if you still can't decide on that, consult your doctor. It's that simple. I'm talking about reading up on both sides of an argument. Don't just think, because I'm a liberal, I'm only going to listen to these people. You've got to listen, especially when it comes up to health, you've got to listen to both sides of an argument and make a decision yourself. Although doing the research yourself is simple, it can be very time-consuming. But if you can have a child, it's worth the time. Look at this. I've done this for a bloody stupid YouTube video. And mothers can't do this for the child. But anyway, act accordingly what you believe based on your own research. Don't, for Pete's sake, take what could be a lethal dose of any medication, especially if you're pregnant, because it's not just your life you're messing with, solely to prove a point, mind you, but you're willing to put your unborn child's baby's life at risk, you have no right to even consider being called a parent or even being a parent whatsoever. And like I say, this is a problem with a large percentage of these females, that if they're told not to do something, the first thing they'll go out and do is do the thing that, and not just in like moderation. Oh, I've taken one pill, take two pills. Ha ha ha! You're not supposed to take this. They will go nuts. They will literally do an overdose. They will overdose on it, and this is proven because I was watching a video where a man's a friend of a nurse. She was he literally phoned her up, said, "Oh, she's taken X amount of Tylenol. She's going to die. What do I do?" And it's like, well, why did she take it? And literally, the only reason was because Trump said she couldn't take it. How stupid is that? It's like, anyway. But anyway, if it was up to me with these sorts of women, I'd let them crack on with it, let them kill themselves. But we're talking about pregnant women. They've got babies inside them, unborn babies at that. So if these women were to survive these overdoses, first thing I'd do is lock them up in a special secured medical ward to monitor the rest of the pregnancy until the full term is established, and then as soon as a child is born, take them away from the so-called mother, because they don't deserve the child, not if they're acting like this. Then I charge them with attempted homicide of a minor. And as part of their sentence, they would have to go through a psychiatrical element. God, long words, can't do with them. Because surely there's a mental illness involved in all this to think, oh, I can't do it, also I'll do it even more. There's got to be some sort of mental health issues there. But I know this will be incredibly hard to do with monetary constraints, possibly constitutional violations, because I'm not sure, not 100% on the American Constitution. I don't know what they can do, what they can't do. The human rights will have a field day over it, along with the left. But then there'll be a logistical nightmare of actually implementing it. Okay, rant over. So in conclusion to this, I think there's nothing more of an attack on the actual companies that produce these medications by humiliated scientists that has managed to convince the president that the study he has produced is completely truthful and absolute facts. Now I'm hoping that the president is doing this in advice to the clinicians or the doctors, the people that are giving this study from what he's been fed, and he's believing it. He thinks, because he's got a little bit of a background history on it. Apparently he's been looking at this for over 20 years. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, because I don't even look back to see if he's done any previous posts on this. But like I say, I do think from his heart, he's wanting to protect certain people. But I've tried to remain neutral as possible in this video, but after doing the research myself, I've already found my own bias. But it's not bias for bias sake. It's not because I don't like Trump. It's not because I don't like the other side. It's bias because I've researched it myself. I've gone through hours and hours of scrolling through study, videos, newspaper columns, news outlets. I've spent quite a bit of time on this, maybe a bit too much time, but anyway. So I've already made up my mind already, to a certain degree, on how this post would be going. So, but yeah, I reckon it's a load of baloney. Big take. Well, you finally got through all my muddling in words and all that, and just laughing at myself. I hope you could hear it, because I'm having a bit of trouble with my microphone. But I'd like to thank you if you've managed to get this to the end of it, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this subject. Please be aware this is my first ever YouTube video, so please be gentle. There are plans of continuing this style of reporting here on YouTube, hopefully 3 times a week to start off with, because I'm on my own and I've got to do all the research myself. Then hopefully maybe doing live streams at a later date. Eventually, I've got to learn how to speak as well. So I can actually properly interact with you guys and actually discuss things as they come out. So if you enjoyed it, please give a like. And if you want to keep seeing this ugly mug on the screen, trying to give out politically unbiased news, please hit the subscribe button. And I hope to see you in the future. Goodbye.